What if your entire digital life didn't just connect, but actually thought together? Imagine a world where your devices don't wait for you to act. They already understand what you need next. Your laptop prepares your workflow before you open it. Your earbuds adjust sound based on your environment without being told. And your assistant doesn't just respond to commands, it quietly predicts them. This is no longer a distant concept. This is the direction technology is already moving toward. And today, we're going to explore how Apple is shaping that future through a deeply connected ecosystem of devices that feel less like tools and more like intelligence working around you. It starts with something small, almost unnoticeable at first, but incredibly powerful in practice. A simple tracking device that has completely changed how we think about losing and finding things. With the new generation of Apple's tracking system, everyday objects become part of a global network. A suitcase, a backpack, or even a set of keys is no longer just a physical item. It becomes a digitally aware object inside a massive interconnected map. Instead of showing you a last known location, the system builds a continuous path. A living trail that updates as it moves through different environments and passes through different devices. The experience feels almost invisible, yet constantly active in the background. Lost items don't feel lost in the traditional sense anymore. They are always somewhere within reach of the network. And what makes this even more interesting is not just tracking, but awareness. Your belongings are no longer isolated. They are quietly integrated into your digital ecosystem, always connected, always traceable, and always accounted for. In real-world usage, this changes behavior in a subtle but powerful way. You stop worrying about where things are. Instead, you start trusting the system to maintain awareness for you in the background. This is where the foundation begins. Small objects becoming part of something much larger. From here, we move into the center of personal computing, a device that has defined portability and performance for years, now evolving into something even more refined. The new generation of ultra-thin laptops is no longer just about speed or design. It's about balance between power and intelligence. Everything feels instant. Applications launch without delay. Creative workflows run smoothly even under heavy load. Multitasking feels natural instead of forced. But the real shift is not just performance. It is adaptation. The system begins to understand patterns in your usage. When you work, how you work, what tools you use most, and even how your workload changes throughout the day. Without you noticing, it starts optimizing itself, managing resources quietly in the background, prioritizing tasks, extending battery efficiency, smoothing out performance peaks. It does not interrupt your experience. It enhances it silently. Over time, the device begins to feel less like hardware and more like a personalized environment, something that adapts to your behavior instead of forcing you to adapt to it. And that's a major shift in computing, because for the first time, performance is not just about raw power anymore. It's about contextual intelligence. The result is a machine that feels less like a device you operate and more like a system that works alongside you. And as this happens, something important becomes clear. Individual power is no longer the goal. Connection between devices is. That's where everything starts to expand beyond a single product. When you move from your laptop to your audio experience, the change is not just about sound quality. It is about perception. With advanced audio systems, silence is no longer just the absence of sound. It becomes a controlled environment. Noise around you is not simply blocked. It is understood. The system identifies where you are, what kind of environment you are in, and how sound should be shaped in response. A busy street feels different from a quiet room. A cafe feels different from a train. Each environment is processed and adapted in real time. And when spatial audio comes into play, sound is no longer flat or directional in a basic sense. It becomes layered, dimensional, and immersive. Music surrounds you instead of sitting inside your ears. Voices feel present instead of distant. Even simple audio becomes an experience with depth and movement. At that point, listening is no longer passive. It becomes an environment you exist inside. And then everything connects back to intelligence. because none of these experiences are separate anymore. They are being tied together by a system that quietly works across all your devices. Your phone, your laptop, your watch, your audio devices, everything begins to share context. And at the center of it is an assistant that is no longer just reactive. It evolves into something that understands patterns across your entire digital life. It notices routines. It learns timing. It recognizes habits without being explicitly trained. Instead of waiting for instructions, it begins to surface what you need before you even ask. A reminder appears exactly when it becomes relevant. A file shows up before you search for it. A suggestion appears before you realize you need it. It is no longer responding to you. It is aligning with you. And that changes the entire relationship between human and technology. Because at this stage, your devices are no longer independent tools operating separately. They are parts of a single intelligent system that surrounds your daily life. When you step back and look at everything together, the idea becomes clear. This is no longer about individual features or product upgrades. It is about building an ecosystem where everything communicates, adapts, and evolves as one. Your tracking system keeps your physical world organized. Your laptop handles your creation and productivity. Your audio system reshapes how you experience sound and space. And your assistant connects everything into one continuous layer of intelligence. Separately, each of these is powerful, but together, they form something much larger. A system that doesn't just execute commands, but supports your entire digital existence in the background. Technology becomes less visible, yet more present than ever. Less distracting, yet more capable. And that is the real shift happening right now. We are moving away from the idea of devices we control and towards systems that understand us. And whether we notice it or not, that transition has already begun. One important thing to understand is that this shift doesn't happen all at once. It happens gradually, through small improvements that feel normal in isolation, but powerful when combined. A slightly smarter assistant here, a slightly faster workflow there, a slightly more adaptive audio experience somewhere else. And slowly, the entire ecosystem starts to feel alive. Not in a literal sense, but in the way it responds, adjusts, and supports you without friction. That is what makes this transformation so significant. It doesn't feel like change. It feels like improvement. And improvement is something we accept without resistance. If you enjoyed this breakdown, stay tuned, because what comes next in technology will push this even further, and we'll be here to break it down for you in the simplest way possible. As these boundaries between hardware and intelligence disappear, the real question is no longer what our gadgets can do for us, but how seamlessly we will coexist within the ecosystems they build.